Tonight, our first speaker is Celeste. Help me welcome Celeste.
Hey everybody, I'm Celeste and I am an alcoholic. And where I grew up in Alcoholics Anonymous, we gave our sobriety date. So my sobriety date is October 5th, 1979. Yeah, so I've been around for a while. And Janet this morning, I got a phone call from her and I asked her, I said, are you speaking tonight at Raleigh? She goes, yeah, will you be my 10-minute speaker? I was like, oh, okay. So here I am. I'm slightly prepared, slightly not prepared. But at the end of the day, that's one of the first things my sponsor taught me was that if you're asked to be of service, if there is any possible way that you can, that you show up and you be of service. Because in order to keep what you have to give it away. So I stand before you giving it away. I'm going to talk tonight about Tradition 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. And that tradition literally saved my life. I'm going to read a little bit from the book of 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. This was one of the meetings that I went to for about 7 years, regularly on a Wednesday night. I lived in a small town in Wisconsin and drove an hour and a half every Wednesday night to attend this 12-step meeting. And so this particular book is pretty much ingrained into the knowledge of what I have for Alcoholics Anonymous. Tradition 3. This tradition is packed with meaning. For AA is really saying to every serious drinker, you are an AA member if you say so. You can declare yourself in. Nobody can keep you out. No matter who you are, no matter how low you've gone, no matter how grave your emotional complications, even your crimes, we still can't deny you AA. We don't want to keep you out. We aren't a bit afraid you'll harm us, never mind how twisted or violent you may be. We just want to be sure that you get the same great chance for sobriety that we've had. So you're an AA member the minute you declare yourself. So it took a lot of years for them to actually agree on letting people declare themselves a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. There was a lot of fear around allowing people into the rooms who had other issues that they were dealing with. They didn't want to look bad. They didn't want to get hurt. They didn't want people to fail. And thankfully, right-minded people realized that was a big mistake and that they needed to allow anyone and everyone to be able to declare themselves a member of Alcoholics Anonymous based on their desire to not drink. And that's the only requirement. So for me, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I was actually a real high-bottom drinker, which Step 1 talks about. And as a high-bottom drinker, there were people in the rooms that had drank for a whole lot longer than I'd been alive. There were people in the rooms who drank more and spilled on their shirt than I ever put in my body. But at the end of the day, we both had the same malady. Our lives were unmanageable. And I had a choice between getting sober or ending up dead, incarcerated, or in an insane asylum. Those 3 choices were very much glaring me in the face at the time of my recovery. So thankfully, as I started hanging around with people in recovery, see, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was starting to hang around with people in recovery. Lived in a small town, so I kind of knew who they were. I also had the privilege of meeting a lovely-looking young man who was in recovery, 5 years sober. He didn't know a whole lot about my history, but we started to date. And I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to stay sober. I was trying to do it all on my own, stay home from the bars, drink Pepsi. If I stayed home from the bars, I would get drunk at home and make long-distance phone calls. And in those days, that cost a lot of money. Actually, my ex-roommate is sitting here in the room. She probably can remember some of our phone bills as a result of me drinking and dialing. And I wouldn't remember, so I'd go into blackout. But I was going to stay home and not drink. But I drank anyway, and I was drinking alone. I would drink olive oil. Oh my God, do you remember that? I did that. I did all kinds of different things to try not to drink, and it just never worked for me. And so finally, there was a day that I realized that I couldn't do myself, so I asked my higher power. I said, God, I just don't know what else to do. And very shortly after that, within a couple of days, I ran into this young man in the grocery store. I knew he was sober. I knew he was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I introduced myself, and we started to chat. And a week later, he asked me out. And yes, I did find a way to start to stay sober. And as I hung around the rooms and came to open meetings, I started to hear about Tradition 3, the only requirement. And then one day I was at a little open meeting out in the woods. There was a group of us camping, and they were all in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was the only Al-Anon there. And they said, oh, why don't you just stay and be a part of our meeting? And they did Tradition 3. And they looked me in the eye, and they said, all you need is the desire. And they were giving me permission to say, yes, I want to be in Alcoholics Anonymous because, yes, I am an alcoholic. And things gradually began to change. And gradually, I came into acceptance. And finally, when doing my Al-Anon 4th and 5th step, realized that I was in the wrong room. And Alcoholics Anonymous embraced me as I came in. There were a few people there who initially were like, I don't know, you're too high bottom. But I just looked up at Traditions 3 and said, it doesn't matter. All I have is that desire. So if you at least at all question in your hearts whether or not you belong here, a day at a time you can say, today I desire to not pick up a drink. It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And I did that a day at a time for the last 40 years. I'm coming almost to the end of my 10 minutes. And so, I dated that gentleman who helped bring me into the rooms just by the fact that he was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we just celebrated 40 years of marriage. I got sober 3 months before we got married, completely sober. And we've known each other for 41 years. So a day at a time, with just a desire to not drink today, I stand before you with having had a wonderful life, married 40 years, 4 kids, 3 grandkids, 1 on the way, and an amazing life of doing the next right thing and being of service to people in Alcoholics Anonymous. So thank you for your time.